This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
In general, there are two types of threats that Klal Yisrael have faced throughout our history. We've faced religious threats, and we've faced physical persecution. And in terms of our response and the proper way to respond to these challenges, so we have two paradigms, we have two predecessors from which we follow in such cases, and that is Chanukah and Purim. We know that in times of Chanukah, our religion was being jeopardized, our religion was being challenged, we didn't have the opportunity to perform Torah mitzvahs, and the response in the time of Chanukah was physical war. We waged war, Milchemes Hashem. So from Chanukah we learn that when Klal Yisrael's observance is being jeopardized, the proper response is Milchemes Hashem, physical war, physical response. In times of Purim, however, our lives were on the line. We had a looming gzeira of lahashmed larag uliyabed, and the response of Klal Yisrael was tza'aka, was tshuva, v'tzumo alai, shloshas yamim, laila v'yom. We fasted, we prayed, we did tshuva. So from Purim we learn that for a threat of physical annihilation, for a physical threat, the proper response is tshuva and tefillah. So it's interesting. In this week's Parsha, in Parshas Vayishlach, Rashi tells us that Yaakov Avinu made a number of different preparations. On the one hand, he prepared for battle. He prepared for milchama. Im yavai Esav el hamachana ha'achas v'yikahu v'haya hamachana shar lefleita. Yaakov Avinu prepared for war. And on the other hand, Yaakov Avinu is mispalel. Yaakov Avinu does tshuva. Yaakov Avinu responds spiritually. So it's interesting. Here we know that there are different types of threats, and we learn from Chanukah that a physical response is proper, and we learn from Purim that a spiritual response is proper, and Yaakov Avinu prepares for both. The Beis HaLevi, in another context, explains that Yaakov Avinu was really faced with both types of threats. Yaakov Avinu is mispalel, hatzileni na, miyad achi, miyad Esav, and the Beis HaLevi is a well-known Beis HaLevi, points out that Yaakov Avinu's tefillah, which seems superfluous, hatzileni na, miyad achi, miyad Esav, Yaakov Avinu was davening that there are two threats over here. Ribbon Shalom. I face the threat of Esav, I face the threat of this wicked man who's coming with 400 men to harm me, to kill me. That's Hatzileni na miyad Esav, but Hatzileni na miyad achi. But Esav also has another threat, a more undisclosed threat, a more sinister threat, and that is the influence of the nations of the world, that they try to persuade us and be mashpia on us in a friendly manner, and that was the tefillah of Hatzileni na miyad achi, when Esav acts like a brother, when Esav acts like a close friend. And therefore we could explain that Yaakov Avinu responded in both ways, because he needed to respond both to the physical threat, which was analogous to Purim, and he needed to respond to the spiritual threat, which was analogous to Chanukah. Now, interestingly, there is an amazing gematria brought in the Sefer Avnei Shai in the name of Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, that when the Sarai Shal Esav came to attack Yaakov, on the words Vayiga bekaf Yerechai, so Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says Vayiga is gematria Chanukah, and Kaf Yerechai is gematria Purim. So again we see that Esav was coming from both angles. There was the kavana to undermine Chanukah, perhaps that's a remez to the spiritual assault of Esav, and Kaf Yerechai, which is gematria Purim, is a remez to the physical assault of Esav, which was lahashmed larag uliyabed. Be it as it may, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says that these are called the two tamchin da'iraisa. These are the two pillars of the Torah, Chanukah and Purim. So Yaakov Avinu was successful in warding off both of them. Yaakov Avinu was successful in counteracting the threat of miyad achi and the threat of miyad Esav. So this parsha then is a remez to the two Yamim Tovim that we were zoicha to in the Galus. As the Ramban tells us, Parshas Vayishlach is the Parsha of Galus. Then it is comes out very beautiful that in the Parsha of Galus, the Parsha that Klal Yisrael has always turned to understand how to deal with the Galus. Ramban writes in the opening of the Parsha that the Chachmei Hadoros always analyze Parshas Vayishlach in order to navigate their stay in the Galus. So in this Parsha is Merumas, both of the Yamim Tovim that are specific to the Galus, and that is Chanukah and Purim. Vayiga, B'Gematria Chanukah, Kaf Yerechai, Gematria Purim. Wishing everyone a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.